Today we're gonna make a spinach and cheese pinwheel, and we're gonna start. I've already started the dough. All I did here was I started with actually I did a batch and a half, but all you would need to do for the recipe is just start with a batch of the honey white bread. And if you wanted to get real adventurous, you could branch out and do any of the sourdough or the honey wheat. But I just start off with this. I've already let it rise. We're ready to actually start working with this. And one thing I'll tell you is I always use a knife to cut my dough. I hate to stretch and break my dough. Gluten strands, you get them built up and they start forming, that yeast starts working and you get them built up, and that's why you let it rise up. And then you don't want to just tear in there and rip off a piece, because you're killing all those gluten strands right where you ripped it. So it's better to always just use a knife just to cut that. So we're going to start off and get a little flour on my hands. I don't know if you can see that so it's going to go down on you, but that's all right. I'm just going to cut off a chunk here. And what we want here is about three even pieces. Then I need some help for this. Do I have anybody out there that wants to come up and get your hands dirty?
Right, this is a full batch?
This is actually a batch and a half that I did. So normally you get two. I just the anticipation of having extra people here. Just throwing a little bit. Yes, you are, and the hand sink down there. So basically what you want to do is, and it looks like I got kind of a little piece there, but for what we're doing right now, it doesn't have to be completely accurate. So we're just going to kind of set these aside, and we're going to start rolling these out. And when you're rolling these out, you spent all this time getting that air built up in there. You don't want to just sit there and just flatten it out and get rid of all that air and have to start over again. It never will quite get back where you want. But we're just going to get it to about 10 inches by 25 is kind of a general rule of thumb. You're going to stretch it out a little bit, and you're going to keep it a little bit thick.
I'm ready.
Let me see if I can show you something here as far as talking about gluten strands. We'll cut off a little piece here, and if you hold it up to the light, you're not going to be able to see this on the camera, but if you hold it up to a light and you kind of look through it when you're making the dough, you'll see all kinds of little spider webs in there. And that's when you know that your gluten's really starting to develop, and the gluten's the kind of the binder that really holds your dough together. But if you hold it up thin and it stretches out nice and you look up and you see those lines, then you know that you're getting to the point where you can just set it off and let it set down and start rising there. All right, so we're just going to roll this out. You want it pretty even. We're going to do so. We're going to start with this, and we're going to move you on over to this cutting board here. And actually, can you see? Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on over to this cutting board here. And we've taken this, and we're just going to start by oiling. Just dip the brush in there, and just kind of want to get an even coat. And if your brush isn't doing really even, you can kind of just pour it on and just rub it on with your hands. It's the same thing. And then this is actually olive oil, but there's not enough of it in there to really flavor it to the point that if all you have is salad oil, then use salad oil. It's more just kind of just to give you a little moisture in between the layers. I'll be the first to tell you that flavor definitely matters on all the layers, but on this case it really doesn't. It really doesn't do enough to have to worry about if you don't have any olive oil in the pantry there. So we're just gonna do this again, stretch it out, and you want to kind of get it all flattened out, but like I said, you don't want to really push really hard, and you can still see we kind of leave it a little bit thick there. So we're going to get the oil on it, and so now we're going to layer our tomatoes on. So grab some of those tomatoes.
Should I start your lid?
Yep. And start just layering on the tomatoes, and then we're going to layer on the cheese. Very easy to do, and if you don't have one of the ingredients, you can definitely substitute and just kind of make it with whatever you got going on. If you have a favorite cheese or a combination, or if there's something You know, you could even do this with your favorite pizza. So, all right, so we're gonna do that, and then we're just gonna go, and you can put, you know, if you want a lot of cheese on there, you can really douse it up with the cheese, but keep in mind when you cook some of your wetter cheese like this, like your mozzarellas, or if you're putting any kind of a cheddar cheese or something in there, when you cook it and it starts cooking the bread, it's going to melt and just all kind of ooze out the bottom. So if you're going with a lot of the wetter cheese, then I'd probably keep it a little on the light side. But things like the feta that don't have a lot of moisture in them and don't melt out as bad, you can really kind of stick those in there and get them good. Now we're going to take, and actually you can put the spinach on and then the pizza pasta, or it really doesn't matter the order on that. But where we've got our kind of our wetter ingredients, I'm just going to go ahead and put our seasoning on now. And this right here, I like to kind of just put it in my hand there, put about a tablespoon, and just really just kind of sprinkle it around. You just want to cover it all, get it all on there, and then we're just going to throw our spinach on. This is our pizza pasta seasoning, and that's all what's going to kind of bring out the flavor of those vegetables. It's going to bring out the spinach, and everything's going to kind of melt in there together and kind of bring it all out. So okay. So now we're just going to start on one end, and you're just going to do kind of a loose roll, because if you really get real tight about this, what happens is when that heat touches that or hits that yeast again in that dough, it's gonna expand that bread, and if it's too tight, you'll see you start getting these spirals that go up, and can be a good look all on its own, but for the most part, we just want to keep it loose so we can keep everything tightly packed in there. All right, start on one end. So we are going to take this now, and we're just going to, it just really depends on how thick you want to cut these. You know, I find like about a 2-inch cut works, especially if you're doing other hors d'oeuvres. If you're doing this kind of as more of a main meal, then you can go a little bit thicker. And then you can put pretty much anything on it if you want. You can serve them by themselves. You could add a little more cheese on the top, sprinkle a little more of the pizza pasta seasoning, or these are very forgiving. So, all right. So we're going to put those on the cookie sheets. I don't know if can you see. We're just kind of space them out a little bit, and they're not going to really rise up a whole lot right now. If you really want to let them get really fluffy again, you can set them out and cover them with another damp towel and just put them out there for about I don't know, like 15-20 minutes, just somewhere semi-warm. All right, so go ahead and put those on. We'll get these cut up here. Let me move you right there. Go ahead and cut that one if you would. And like I said, I mean, you can put anything you want in this. You can change out the cheese. You can put meat in. You can put Italian sausage. You could put, you know, pretty much anything that you think of. Like so many of our products are just very, very versatile, very easy to use. So yeah, go ahead and put them in the right end of the oven.